meatballs is the ultimate comfort meal and something I cook very regularly for my family. Now, if there's one thing I really dislike, it's a tough meatball. Now, to avoid that, you want to add a starchy component to your meatball to keep them light and fluffy, because what happens is when the meat hits the pan, those proteins can really toughen up. So you need something really starchy in there to lighten up the texture. Now, traditionally in Italy, nonnas do this by soaking breadcrumbs in milk. But in my gluten-free meatballs, I'm going to do this using a potato. So this dirty, dusty Sebago potato will create the lightest and fluffiest meatballs you'll ever try. Now, you want to ensure you buy a potato with high starch content, and that's why I've chosen the Sebago. This is the best for creating really light and fluffy meatballs.
To get started, we're going to peel the potato and finely grate it. Now, you want to use the finest side of your grater to get a really fine strand of potato. Then firmly squeeze out all of the moisture so that we're left with a cloud that's going to make your meatballs light and fluffy.
And look at how much water we've squeezed out. There's quite a bit in there, so make sure you get all the water out of that potato. We're combining two minces. I've got pork and veal mince here. I like to use equal amounts, so it's about 250 grams of each. Now, if you like, you can change your meat into like a beef mince or a chicken mince. You can pretty much use any mince you like here, but I like pork and veal. It's a classic combination. It gives a really beautiful light flavour. Now, to this, we're going to mince in 2 garlic cloves. This is all mixed in one bowl, so it's quite an easy recipe to do at home. 1 egg. This binds our meatballs together. And then we add our fresh herbs for some vibrance. So I like to use about 1/4 cup of parsley. Parsley is great in meatballs because it gives a really nice, vibrant, fresh flavour. You can also use dried herbs as well. Oregano works beautifully, as does thyme, but parsley is a must, I'd say. So we just throw that parsley straight in. One of my favourite herbs for meatballs, sage. It has a beautiful peppery flavour, and it has quite an assertive flavour. So with sage, you don't need to use much. 1 to 2 tablespoons goes a very long way because it is quite strong, but it pairs so beautifully with pork and veal. Just ensure with your sage that you're chopping it very finely. Then to this, we add a good pinch of sea salt. Don't be afraid to use sea salt here. You need to be very generous to get flavour out of those meatballs, and a grinding of cracked black pepper. And finally, we're adding in our mashed potato to make our meatballs extra fluffy. We're just going to get in there with our hands and just mash it all together. Pop this mixture in the fridge for 30 minutes. And what that's going to do is firstly firm up the meatballs so they're easier to roll, and secondly, it's going to intensify all those beautiful flavours.
While that's firming in the fridge, I'm going to prepare some finely chopped onion and basil for our sauce. Rub a few drops of olive oil onto your hands to help stop the meat mixture from sticking. You want to roll it in the palm of your hands and make them roughly the size of a golf ball. But of course you can make them any size you like. Now some olive oil into a pan.
And what we're going to do at this point is just sear off our meatballs. We want to form a beautiful brown crust. That's going to flavour our meatballs and add some beautiful colour to them. So as I add them to the pan, I just give them a little gentle swirl, because I don't want them to stick into that pan, and swirling them as we go will prevent them from sticking. At this point, we're not going to cook our meatballs through. Don't worry about having in the pan for too long. All you want to do is form that crust. Just gently toss those meatballs once they're in the pan so they cook all over. You need to keep rotating them to ensure you're not burning them on one side. Our meatballs have nicely browned now. Look at that gorgeous colour. That's going to add so much flavour to our spaghetti. Set them aside into a new bowl, and we're probably going to capture all that meatball juice in there too. We want to save that. Again, that's going to add flavour back to our sauce. Now we're going to add a little extra olive oil to the pan before we toss in our diced brown onion. Now we just want to soften that onion. We want to get nice and translucent. Ensure you're scraping any caramelised bits from the bottom of the pan to capture all that flavour into your sauce. You want all those brown sticky bits at the bottom.
We're going to deglaze the pan now with 1/2 cup of red wine, and then add passata, 1/2 cup of water, and our chopped basil to get that extra flavour.
Mix that all through. Look at how rich that sauce looks.
And now I'm just seasoning with some sea salt and a crack of pepper.
And to finish off, a grinding of nutmeg. Now, nutmeg works beautifully in red sauces. I strongly urge you to add it to your pasta sauces. It just adds the most beautiful, fragrant notes. We're going to add our meatballs back to our pan at this stage. And we want to capture all those beautiful juices. So those juices that have been sitting back in the bowl, ensure you tip those all back into the sauce. Give that a gentle toss. I'm just covering those meatballs in our beautiful thick sauce. So we're just going to cook these meatballs really gently on a low heat for about 20 minutes. Just pop a lid on because you don't want any of that steam escaping. You don't want the sauce to reduce too much. And whilst that's cooking, we're going to pop in our spaghetti to our hot boiling pasta water. Now ensure you season your water with sea salt before you pop in your spaghetti. This is going to flavour your pasta. And then to that, we're going to add this gluten-free spaghetti. Now, my family don't need to eat gluten-free. I'm the only one that needs to eat gluten-free, but they love this spaghetti. I cook it for them all the time, and they have no idea it's gluten-free. It just tastes like regular pasta.
Now, this pasta is only going to take about 8 minutes to cook. But if you want it al dente, then take it off a minute earlier.
Oh, those meatballs are ready. Look at that. They are so luscious. That sauce has thickened up beautifully. They're ready for plating. So to start, gluten-free spaghetti. Give it a little twirl for presentation. Top that with about 3 to 4 meatballs, depending on how hungry I am. There's a little extra sauce in there. Parmigiano. Love my cheese. Fresh parsley to garnish. And I always like to finish with some cracked pepper. Now I just want to show you these meatballs so you can see how light and fluffy they are. So I'm going to break into one for you. See how easily that's separated, and that light fluffy potato, that's made these light as air. So delicious. This is definitely not a tough meatball. Let's get some of that gluten-free spaghetti on the fork and give it a try. Light as a cloud. The spaghetti is beautiful and light, beautifully coated with that beautiful rich passata sauce. This is just bellissimo.